Thank you. It was an excellent round of floor speeches, and it's great to see so much audience engagement from a variety of perspectives. But now we're moving back to our paper speakers for this evening. So speaking as our final defender in proposition of the motion, this House believes satire is the most revolutionary form of art. We have Ewan Woods. Ewan is a third-year HSPS student from Corpus Christi. Ewan, you have the ears of the House. Oh.
Mr. President, throughout my time at Cambridge, I have produced, acted in and written for a number of sketch shows, covering topics as random as the treatment of comic writers to crypto markets, or supervillains and criminal masterminds facing jail time. Some of these topics are obviously sillier than others, and I'd be hesitant to call any of them truly revolutionary satire, any more than I'd be willing to say that Sunday Lolas is essential to the dissertation writing process. Yet, in all of this, I think it's helped make me clear the impact of which truly good satire can have, as whilst it's unlikely that one good joke will ever topple a dictatorship, liberate a people, or unseat election riggers and fascistic thugs, satire's position as an artistic medium is often consumed by all, accessible to all, and will leave a long-lasting impact, making it more than effective of a catalyst to create the revolutionary conditions in people's minds more than any other form of art. Let's start with satire's popularity. I think it's safe to say people like jokes. I don't think that's particularly controversial for me to claim here tonight, but it obviously goes a hell of a lot further than that. Satire is a form of art that's often much more consumed by many of its other equivalents, so much so that its jokes enter clear forms of public consciousness. We've already heard about Gilray tonight and his depiction of Napoleon as a little manlet, to Liz Truss, Lib Dem sleeper agent and everyone's favourite vegetable. The success of satire is in its ability to be easily consumed by everyone, be that in political cartoons or even in street graffiti, as was mentioned earlier. One of the most famous forms of satire from Tsarist Russia is in street graffiti, from many pictures of the mystic Rasputin, the wife of Nicholas II, clearly establishing in the mind the well-known truth that the then Tsar was a bit of a cuck. It is very obvious... Good God. It's very obvious that satire... Another obvious example of satire's ability to be consumed in such large droves is that of Spitting Image. Whilst its producers may have since lamented the failures of satire in truly toppling Thatcher, it did a lot of work in defining the image of her government in the minds of the public. Its significance, not only from its viewing figures getting typically about a third of the country watching it any time it was on, was also seen in the fact that during the 80s and 90s, those who were in the age group of 18 to 24, about half of them knew what was happening in British public life because of Spitting Image. Satire's clear ability to get a point across supersedes clearly any other work of fiction, art, or even at times serious journalistic analysis, as whilst the average person probably couldn't give you exact details about Liz Truss's national insurance plans or her schemes to reform the British energy market or the impact that inflation rates cause on the Bank of England. They can tell you that she's the funny lettuce woman who had a lot of bad ideas, a point that satire can only clearly and so succinctly make. Now, this satire wouldn't be as effective as it is without being so accessible. And whilst there are periods where great works of art or song or poetry have been just as able to capture the public consciousness, evident from many national anthems around the world being those of revolutionary songs, none are more effective as spreading a clear idea as a good joke. Spitting Image, again, makes that point for me, as I just said, watched by over a third of the country, and we just heard earlier tonight in John Major's depiction of the grey man, a form which he has arguably never been able to escape. But even beyond purely national context, we've seen forms of satire that have clearly escaped the the location of where they were initially created. We've already heard about Xi Jinping and Winnie the Pooh, but there's an even more recent phenomenon of that's just happened in the past week, with Joe Biden's recent gaffe of Sisi of Mexico leading to a mass revival of an old joke about President Sisi, whose name happens to sound a lot like the Mexican when said in Arabic, to the point where we've seen all across internet circles in Egypt of really poorly photoshopped image of the dictator in a sombrero, or weird bastardizations of the Egyptian and the Mexican flag. I think I saw one trying to revive the Arab Republic, but instead the Mexican Republic, showing Egypt and Mexico under one very odd creation of a state, which, if it ever came to fruition, God knows what would happen, but never mind. The point being is that it's very clear that no matter the language barrier, the cultural barrier, or any other form of division, a good joke can cut through it, to the point where even if you don't understand every element of it, you'll still be able to get away with the broader picture and the key point of which the satire is trying to highlight. And it is this combination of satire's popularity and its easy ability to be accessed which gives it its final truly revolutionary feature, its incredibly long-lasting impact. As I've just mentioned, Joe Biden's old man moments are a very clear example of this, to the point where it's become common in internet circles on Twitter to make ironic Agent Biden propagator of the papal deep state memes, to highlight the fact that his utter nonsense clearly must have some point to it to bring papacy to the entire United States. It's gotten to the point where it's such an established fact that Joe Biden is an old babbling buffoon that even seeing clips of him from 2016 seemed like a truly insane process. Good God, this man was once coherent. It's so unbelievable that it's almost a joke in of itself. We've also seen similar effects past and present. I've already mentioned Nicholas II, so I'll try not to bring it up again, but we've also seen a similar effect in, believe it or not, the Trump presidency. Whilst, much like Boris Johnson, who was just raised earlier, Trump seemingly was often immune to satire, the failure in satirizing Trump, in a way, allowed for satirization of another form, the satirization of American media and its failures to criticize him, to the point where Orange Man Bad became such a succinct form of critiquing American late-night comedy because it seemed to be all that there was to much of the coverage of the man throughout his presidency. Little on the way of substance in relation to things he was doing or policies he was trying to implement. More just, look at the funny orange man, doesn't he speak weird? It's very clear that even bad satire can lead to the creation of good satire, and the fact that that has become the defining trend of the second half of the 2010s comedy has made that evident. This has also been seen in examples much closer to home, from Kolk's favourite love boy, Ed Miliband, being eternally associated with Wallace and bacon sandwiches, as well as to the Queen Mother, once a figure of veneration for a steadfast nature during the war years, being a comfort to people in bombed-out houses, being seen in their twilight years in the minds of the British public as a chain-smoking, gym-downing booze machine who barely went a day sober, whilst I still think that's quite a good depiction all in all. It's very clearly something that's a bit of a shift from her days as the dignified woman walking through bombed-out homes. No matter how much a public figure is once seen as competent or beloved, once a joke takes hold, no opinion poll on earth will ever be able to save them from that kind of demise. Now, I will accept that a joke won't pick up a pitchfork, nor will it fire a gun or start a riot. But what it can do is cement in the minds of the population a certain attitude towards an idea, a concept, a collective, or an individual. With good satire being readily accessible, be it in newspapers, online, or in the streets, hitting mass popularity from the success of Spitting Image and Saturday Night Live at its peak on politicians of the day, and having a long-lasting impact, as Napoleon is still short in the minds of the general public despite the seething comments of Frenchmen online, or John Major being eternally painted grey within the British consciousness, it's evident that no matter what forms of art may be used to incite revolution, satire will eternally be one which establishes figures in politics and popular culture as the fools that they are for the rest of time, making the public eternally more willing to get rid of them via democratic or other means, if not due to discontent, so that the comedians can get some new material for the love of God. Thank you very much.